Hello, and welcome to LSET Tech Bytes. Let's dive into the world of web development and build a fully functional calculator from scratch using the powerful trio of HTML, CSS, and JavaScript. Let's break it down step by step. This declaration specifies the document type and HTML version being used. This line starts the HTML document and sets the language to English. This section contains meta-information about the HTML document, such as the character encoding and the viewport settings. Specifies the character encoding for the document as UTF-8, which supports a wide range of characters from various languages. Meta name viewport content with device width, initial scale 1.0. This meta tag sets the width of the viewport to the width of the device and sets the initial zoom level to 1.0. This sets the title of the HTML document to calculator. Closes the head section of the HTML document. This section contains the visible content of the HTML document. This is a container for the entire calculator. This is a section dedicated to displaying the input and results of the calculator. This creates a text input field with a placeholder value of 0 and the ID input. The disabled attribute prevents user input. Closes the display section. This section contains the buttons for the calculator. This creates a button labeled AC with the ID clear for clearing the calculator input. This creates a button labeled DAL with the ID erase for deleting the last character of the input. This creates a button for the division operation. This creates a button for the multiplication operation. This creates a button labeled 7 for inputting the number 7. This creates a button labeled 8 for inputting the number 8. This creates a button labeled 9 for inputting the number 9. This creates a button for the subtraction operation. This creates a button labeled 6 for inputting the number 6. This creates a button labeled 5 for inputting the number 5. This creates a button labeled 4 for inputting the number 4. This creates a button for the addition operation. This creates a button labeled 1 for inputting the number 1. This creates a button labeled 2 for inputting the number 2. This creates a button labeled 3 for inputting the number 3. This creates a button labeled with the ID equal for calculating the result. This creates a button labeled 0 for inputting the number 0. This creates a button labeled for inputting the decimal point. Closes the button section. Closes the calculator container. Closes the body section. Closes the HTML document. This HTML code sets up the structure for a simple calculator interface with input fields, buttons for numbers and operations, and the necessary functionality to perform calculations. We will now turn our attention to CSS. Let's walk through it step by step. This sets all elements to have no margin or padding and ensures that the box model includes border and padding. This sets the height of the body to be 100 of the viewport height. This styles the calculator container, setting its width, background color, padding, position, border radius, and utilizing the transform property to center it on the page. There is a typo in box sizing, which likely should be box shadow to add a shadow effect. This styles the display input field within the calculator, setting its width, padding, text alignment, order, background color, text color, and font size. This sets the width of the display to 100. This styles the placeholder text within the display input, setting its color. This styles the button container, setting it to use CSS grid with 4 columns of equal width, adding a gap between grid items and providing top margin. This styles the input buttons within the button container, setting their font size, padding, border, background color, text color, cursor style, and border radius. This adds a box shadow effect to the input buttons when hovered over. This styles the equal button, spanning 2 rows in the grid and setting its background color. This styles the button with a value of 0, spanning 2 columns in the grid. Overall, this CSS code is responsible for styling the calculator interface, including the display, input buttons, and behavior when they are pressed. Let's break down the JavaScript code for the calculator app step by step. These lines declare a variable equal pressed initialized to 0 and selects all elements with the class input button and stores them in the button input variable. These lines store references to specific elements in the HTML with the ID input, equal, clear, and erase respectively. This sets up an event to clear the input field when the window loads. This code sets up event listeners for each button with the class input button. When a button is clicked, if the equal sign was pressed before, it clears the input field and updates the input value with the value of the clicked button. This code sets up an event listener for the equal button. When clicked, it evaluates the input value using the eval function, checks if the result is an integer, and displays the result in the input field. If the result is not an integer, it displays the result rounded to 2 decimal places. This line adds an event listener to the clear button, which clears the input field when clicked. This code establishes an event listener for the erase button. When clicked, it removes the last character from the input field. This JavaScript code sets up the behavior of the calculator app, allowing for input of numbers and operations, performing calculations when the equal button is pressed, and providing functionality for clearing and deleting input. Thank you for joining us today. Stay tuned for more Java videos.